Hello and welcome to this new Rencontre Quantum Way. My name is Florence Bernard and I'm really thrilled to spend this hour, maybe a little more, with you and our very special guest, Trudy Goodman. So bonjour à tout le monde et bienvenue pour cette rencontre Quantum Way. Je suis Florence Bernard et je suis très heureuse de passer cette heure avec vous et avec notre invitée toute spéciale, Trudy Goodman. We've launched, just a few words, we've launched this Rencontre Quantum Way about a year ago with the idea of giving a large French-speaking audience access to inspiring people in the field of psychotherapy, personal growth, and mindfulness. And Trudy Goodman is definitely one of them, one of those inspiring people we really want you to meet. She's a Vipassana teacher and the founding teacher of Insight LA. She has trained in two fields, meditation and psychotherapy. She practiced mindfulness-based psychotherapy with children, teenagers, couples, and individuals. She's one of the very first teachers of mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, taught with its creator, Jon Kabat-Zinn. I think I'm right. So, and since 1974, that's what I found on your website, Trudy, you devoted much of your life to practicing Buddhist meditation along with your husband, Jack Kornfield. Many of you might know him. And you conduct retreats and workshops worldwide, and for now on Zoom, most of them. And many of you have discovered her during our last meditation and mindfulness conference last December. And while I'm speaking of that, and before warmly welcoming Trudy, I just wanted to share that we have a very special offer today that is available only for 48 hours. It's the last conference with all the replays and the bonuses in which you can find Trudy's participations and Jack Kornfield and David Treleaven and many, many others, mindfulness teachers. And it's at a very low price. It's 50 euros instead of 197 for all of you that are listening today, whether live or replay. So you can find the link in the chat. I can put it right now, or maybe we'll do it, but I prepared my link, so here it is. Oops. So that being said, welcome, Trudy, and thank you for being with us today, tonight. It depends on where on the globe you are. For you it's today, and for me it's tonight. So welcome, and so nice to have you with us.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. Are there people in attendees who are participating who speak English, or is everybody French and it's being translated? I'm asking because if I say something in French, then do you have to translate it into English?
I think they're both, because I have received English questions and French questions. Most are French speakers, but I think there are some English speakers and people who want to listen to you in English in the original language. So, but we can try to go back and forth.
Okay. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I love French. I love France, and went to school there as a teenager. I went to quatrième, troisième, did an année propédeutique, all of this in French, because my father worked at the Institut Pasteur for a while. And that is how I met Jon Kabat-Zinn. Wow. He was Jon Kabat at that time. His father and my father worked together at the Institut Pasteur. And one Sunday, I just tell you this quick story. One Sunday afternoon, my parents, I was 14 years old at this time, and my parents said, we're going to visit an American family. It's, dimanche, we're going to have this visit. And I was very unhappy to have to be in the car with my brother and sister and my parents. And at that age, I didn't even want to go. And I remember sulking in the car. do I need to stop, or she can just do translating?
No, she's really fluent. She's
Okay. Okay.
translating all. Don't worry.
Okay. Au fur et à mesure. Okay.
Yes.
So I I was really sulking in the back seat, staring out the window very gloomily as we drove up to this house, and we go into the apartment and have to be polite and meet these parents. And across the room, I see a boy sitting there, so handsome, so cute. And I thought, maybe this visit isn't going to be so bad after all. And he and I became really good friends that year because we were both in French lycée and just sharing what we were studying. And so we are really friends from childhood. And I like, he's really, in some ways, I only have two friends from, so long ago that we have been continuously connected. And it's just a coincidence, really, that we each devoted our lives to this practice of mindfulness and loving kindness and compassion, starting with the Buddhist meditation, and then largely thanks to John's work, moving all of that more into the mainstream to be accessible to people who have no interest in being Buddhist, but who want to use these skills, which we'll talk about some today. So it feels like being back home, even though I'm sitting in my house and it's bright, sunny day in Los Angeles. It's around noon and here we are together. It's kind of magic.
It is. Welcome to France and to Belgium and to Switzerland and to Quebec.
Yeah.
In Africa,
yeah.
I know there are some people from Africa.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that they don't hear, hear well the interpretation, the French interpretation. Maybe they can switch off the original audio. So, and Laura, you can translate that. They can switch off the original audio by clicking on interpretation and then couper l'audio original. Okay, so that will be easier for the people who are listening to the translation. Okay, so today we're speaking about mindfulness, about the heart, the mind, how to. I have received about 120 questions. So that's a lot. So people were really, really interested in hearing about what you were going to say about the topic and all what we're going through with the pandemic. It's kind of a hard time for everybody, right?
And I understand you have new measures, new restrictions coming. And I was reading about that and thinking, well, at least you can buy chocolate and get your hair done. I did notice that. but I'm sorry, there isn't enough vaccine because, yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. So what can you say about that? Because people, most of the questions are about how can we how can we deal with anger, resentment, what about anxiety, frustration, loneliness that we're going through nowadays in this period?
Yeah, this is a time when the world, everyone is really being asked to be with themselves in a way that we never had to do before. We had so many outlets, things that we could go and do physically, and entertainment, and being with friends and meals together. And it's so, well, it's unheard of course, in our lifetime to have these pleasures. And they're not just pleasures, they're actually necessities for community, connection, and love, and all of that. To have these things taken away from us for now is so, so difficult. And it's throwing everybody kind of back into themselves. And I don't know about you, but I'm really noticing the fact that our school systems never taught us how to be with ourselves, how to work with really difficult emotions as they come up, so that we can allow ourselves to actually experience the emotion, which you must do. We have to be true to ourselves. If I'm angry, it doesn't help to look in the mirror and say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, because I'm not. That's just a mental fabrication. I know some people find it helpful to do affirmations. That's good. But for me, it feels like it's not attuned to where I really am. And that's where the mindfulness can help us,
Mhm.
because as we notice how we are, and we have the courage to be true, tell ourselves the truth about how we are. This is a definition. It's one definition of mindfulness, actually, is honesty, being able to see clearly and then be honest about what we're seeing. It's really difficult to face ourselves with no distractions. It's like everybody's in an enforced meditation retreat or something, but without the teachings, it's very difficult. So, with the mindfulness, to notice what you're feeling and to be able to tell yourself the truth about it. I'm actually feeling so angry. I feel full of hatred at this moment. Or I am so sad. I'm full of despair. I feel hopeless and depressed, even though you may be the type of person who never felt depressed before. So, with the mindfulness, we notice just how it is and what is being felt, whatever emotion it is. And of course, working with the happy emotions is pretty easy because they don't bother us when we're happy or feeling joy or gratitude. But when we're suffering and feeling difficult emotions, um, the thing to do is to first recognize how you're feeling, to see it, to notice it, to tell yourself the truth about it, to have the humility to acknowledge it in you. And then, and this is going to sound counterintuitive,
Mhm.
um, then to be able to allow that feeling. Just let it be there, because guess what? It's already here. And to allow it to be here without resisting it, this is already takes a lot of courage, to allow it to be there. And then this is where the teachings from meditation traditions are really helpful, because we learn to observe what the mind does when it's in the grip of that emotion. And instead of going into all of the thoughts and stories and memories and just all the intensity that has generated the emotion, the resistance to the public health measures or the despair about how long is this going to go on, instead of going into all of that, it's all happening. We're not trying to stop it. We tune into the body and just notice, how does it feel in the body to be angry, to be filled with rage? Where do I feel this in my body? You can try it. You can, no, it doesn't change anything yet, but wait, we're not done. Um, Try it, feel it now, whatever you're feeling. What does it feel like in your hands? I know when I'm angry, my hands clench and get tight. I feel it in my chest. There's a heat. The body has heat. If I'm lonely, and if you are not, in a relationship and you're alone in the pandemic, the feelings of loneliness, the feelings of longing, the feelings of sadness, to feel, where do I feel this in my body? The reason for locating the feeling in your body is that then it cuts through the momentum of the thinking, and you're left with the simple fact of, this is how it is in this moment. And then to connect with every human being who has ever felt angry, who has ever felt full of hate or despair, or just bottomless sorrow, or grief at having lost a loved one, all of these painful emotions. Instead of being isolated and alone with that feeling, you are making a bridge to connect you with the rest of humanity. And while the feeling may not go away right away, the more acceptance we can have and the more space or room we can create around that feeling, it will change much more quickly. in the years of doing psychotherapy, one of the things that always surprised me is that, because it goes against our common sense, is that when people come to therapy wanting to change something that they really hate about themselves, you'd think it would be pretty easy to let it go, right? But it isn't until you can begin to see whatever it is that you maybe don't like about yourself through the eyes of compassion with a little bit of tenderness, and be able to see, oh, this is something that has been with me for a long time. I've suffered a lot with this. Just breathing a sigh of relief. And instead of hating it and struggling with it, just allowing it to be there, it somehow makes room for it to flow through, because everything actually is changing all the time. We get fixated on things because we're identified with them and they matter to us. We get fixated on them, and then that makes them stay longer. So it may not feel like it changes anything in the moment, but what it's doing is it's sort of softening the situation and making it be a little more fluid, so that the emotions and the thoughts that are so painful can flow by. It's like if you've ever done meditation, you learn to kind of observe what's happening instead of just identifying with it completely. It's like creating a little bit of space between the skull and the brain. Of course, there isn't really that space, but it's as though we're creating that space. So we use an acronym in English sometimes. This has been used for decades now in the Vipassana meditation circles. The acronym is RAIN, and the R stands for recognize, which would be the same in French, or connaître. The A stands for allow or acknowledge. The I stands for taking an interest, getting curious. And this is also really counterintuitive. When we feel difficult things, we want to get away from them. That's hardwired into our nervous system as human beings, right? We want to really get away. And that's for our survival. But here we're going to turn toward it and get interested in it. What does it feel like in the body? What kind of stories go through my mind when my heart is all sad like this? We get curious, and that's what the I is for. It's for taking an interest in something that we would ordinarily turn away from. And then the N stands for nurturing. We try to bring some tenderness, some loving kindness, some self-compassion to the moment. And that helps us not get so identified with it. The last thing I'll say before the next question, Florence, is that there's an American psychologist named Richard Schwartz, and he created a therapeutic system called Internal Family Systems, IFS, EFS in French, and will actually be reversed in French. And
we say IFS.
You do say IFS.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. IFS is really helpful here because it can, understanding that part of you is sad, part of you is enraged, part of you is frustrated, part of you is lonely, part of you is filled with lust and cannot live another day without sex. Part of you is, this way, a part of you is calm, part of you is very mature, part of you is compassionate. Being able to understand that we have these crazy parts and sane parts and loving parts and hateful parts, it's very relieving because you begin to see these parts parade through your consciousness, and you don't have to feel terrible about being all of it. Like, I'm only this sad person. I'm only this depressed person. I'm only this like itchy, restless, lustful person. You just have these different parts. And I find it really compassionate to look at myself that way and to help other people see it's okay. to be exactly the way you are, because it's only a moment. Maybe it's many moments, maybe it's a few days, but it's still only part of who you are.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning IFS. I'm really a big fan of IFS, and I've been trained in IFS. And Richard Schwartz will be in our next summit that we're
Good.
having. Yeah, and
Good.
that begins in April the 21st, and for 6 days. And he's one of our main speakers. So he will talk about IFS and trauma and all the parts. Yeah,
He's a
he's
very nice man. Very nice man.
yeah.
I
Well,
care about if teachers are actually walking their talk. If a teacher or if they really are embodying what they teach, this really matters to me, because you can be brilliant and then go home and be nasty. But he's a nice man.
he is, and so he will be there, and also Cis Sykes, who is another IFS therapist. She's really great. She will talk about addictive process and trauma. So we put a lot of IFS in our conferences and meetings. So thank you for mentioning it. I have another some other questions about what about yeah, you had told that for many people it's kind of difficult, like you say, well, um, go back to what you're feeling inside your body. And I have a person who asked, what if I cannot visualize, or I cannot, and or if I have no really body sensation, what can I do? Do you have any clue?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I consider um, and this is true in the mindfulness-based stress reduction program too, that no sensation or numbness is considered a sensation. The sensation of nothing, or I can't connect with it, or I don't feel it, that counts as a sensation, because that is actually very common. Again, in our whole scholastic conditioning, our whole academic upbringing, is focusing from here to here for the most part. It's not teaching us how to have sensory awareness of our bodies and the sensations in the bodies. It takes practice to tune into that. So if you're interested in developing a better acquaintance with what might be underneath that lack of sensation, there are practices that you can do, and you can find them on the internet too. You can do a body scan. We're going to do an affectionate body scan a bit later this evening, but you can practice a body scan. You can practice any kind of physical, I don't know what your physical condition is, but it doesn't matter. You can even be in a wheelchair and do these practices of, very gentle sensory awareness, moving your body just very mindfully and tracking, is there any feeling as you move, and maybe just lifting your arms. Like I know when I lift my arms, for example, I have sensations that I can feel in the arm muscles. So you can do very gentle things like that to see if you can locate. Sensations are, there's nothing that great, except that sensations are like, they're like clues. They're ways that our body, it's a language that our body is speaking to us in. Like if you stub your toe, ow, the body is showing you that is not good for me. That hurt. So I don't recommend inflicting pain on yourself in order to locate sensations, but maybe some pleasurable ones, like, can you feel this? When you just gently rest your hand or caress your hand, and just seeing what that's like. I think if you tune in, you'll start to notice little glimmers of sensations that you've been having, but have not been trained yet to notice.
Okay. And do you recommend to meditate every day?
Well, if you can, yes, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, in some ways, it would be like asking the dentist, should I really brush my teeth every day, or do I have to take a shower every day? I have a young friend. She had a baby very young. She was 16 years old. And she said to me, I have to wash that baby every day. She just couldn't believe it. She had to do it every day. So it's the same with meditation. It's better to do it occasionally than not at all. But even if you do only, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, just to take that quiet time, even if it's just with your coffee in the morning, a time when you are not on your device, any device, and you're not listening, you're just undistracted, quiet, maybe just 3 minutes. And to do that every day, or to take 1 minute, like some people set their timer on their phone to go off each hour, and they just take 1 full minute of closing their eyes to just have no distractions, even at work, taking a deep breath and just noticing, how is it for me in this moment? So, yes, as often as you can, just because it's like anything. Look, this is a skill. It's like if you're learning to play the piano, your teacher will tell you at least do some scales every day to get the flexibility in your hands and to teach the fingers where the notes are. Yeah, it's the same. It's just learning a skill. But this is different in the sense that this skill can help you be present for whatever is happening in your life with a little bit more calm and tenderness. And right now, when we're in the grip of the pandemic and there's so much fear and sorrow and anger and everything, that is an essential skill. I mean, I think it's essential anytime, but especially this year.
Yeah. And what about, because these are questions that came in the 120 questions I had. It's about, okay, to meditate 1 minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 or 40 or 1 hour. But there are many people who say, well, my mind keeps going and going, and like this will inside, like a bicycle going. How can you calm down those non stoppable thinking?
Yes, the nonstop thinking and non-stoppable thinking. It is non-stoppable, by the way. It's not just nonstop. If you try to stop your thinking, it'll just get worse. It's so unfair. You know, it's kind of, you have to have the willingness to let it just spin out while you focus, you shift. And this is a magical capacity that we have as human beings, that we can actually place our attention wherever we choose. We can't make it stay there, but we can practice learning how to place our attention where we want it to be and let it rest there for longer periods of time. For example, I'll use a personal example. I had to have a divorce from a husband I love very, very much because there was a unstoppable addiction problem. And an addiction divorce is different from just losing interest in each other or going apart. You might still love each other very much, but you can't live with that person anymore. And so I got divorced, and it made me extremely anxious. I was so anxious all the time. I even tried some medication, but it didn't work for me at all. And so as a meditation teacher, I thought, okay, this is the test, right? When I am in the midst of my own unstoppable thinking and tremendous fear and anxiety about my life. And I did something that, of course, I was already a meditation teacher. I don't expect you to do this, but hopefully you can do some of this. It won't be as extreme. But I used to wake up after maybe 2-3 hours of sleep. I could not go back to sleep because of the anxiety and the spinning in my head. So I would get up and sit and meditate, and it would just be like, but finally it would slow. And I would rest my attention with my breathing, because for me, the breath was soothing. That ebb and flow, very rhythmic, like waves in the ocean. For some people, if you have asthma or something, maybe the breath is not so soothing, but you can focus then on the sounds around you or the sensations in the body if you feel those. There are other ways you can practice. For me, I would sit with the breath and it took so much patience, but I was motivated because I was suffering. You are motivated because you are suffering. That thinking is not pleasant. To be in the grip of it is actually painful. So I want to recommend that you be, patience is my least favorite virtue to cultivate, but if you can be patient and sit and just let it, and in the meantime, place your attention somewhere else. Place it with the breath. Place it with some soothing music. And if it's daytime, walk. Do some mindful walking. Just let your body move through space. Feel your feet as they connect with the ground. You can do some loving kindness practice while you walk. You can say a word with each footstep, like calm, peace, safe. You can just put in the words you need to hear and just choose 3 or maybe 4, because, 4 steps. Thich Nhat Hanh, a teacher who actually has lived in France for years, in Plum Village near Bordeaux, he would say, calm, release, present moment, only moment. In other words, there is no other life. There is just this footstep. We imagine a life before and a life after. But in reality, there's just this breath, this sight, this sound, this touch, this footstep, this landscape as I walk by. So if sitting still is impossible, walk. If walking slowly and mindfully is impossible, walk fast. And sometimes it can be really helpful to do some aerobic exercise before you meditate, to just burn off some of that nervous energy. That can really help too.
Thank you. I'm going to there's a question in the chat which says, does the meditation, is it only to calm down, or does it develop cognitive functions in the brain?
Yes, it develops cognitive functions, definitely. It opens up, I would say, dimensions of consciousness that were not in our awareness before. So it's calming down is kind of the basic first thing, to just be able to relax. And that's key. And if that's all you do, it will be really beneficial for your immune system, for your whole being. But if you keep at it and you develop an interest and you look more deeply, you will notice that synchronicities begin to happen. There are different cognitive functions that are enhanced by meditation. At the most practical level, the ability to concentrate and focus. There is not one activity I can think of that is not enhanced by being present while we do it. Years ago, Harvard professor Daniel Gilbert did a study where I think 5,000 people were given a way for them to check in on their phones. They would check in periodically, like, what are you doing and how are you feeling? And what they discovered at the end of the study was that what determined people's sense of happiness with what they were doing or ease with it was not the actual activity. It didn't depend on whether they were eating breakfast or, walking down the street or driving in their car. What the greatest satisfaction came from the activities where the intention, where the attention was most sustained and people were most present. So because this is a professional webinar, I won't ask you to guess which which activities were easiest for people to focus on. You can leave that to your imagination. Um, but yes, those activities were the easiest to focus on. Um, and so the cognitive capacities, I think, are really enhanced. All the executive functions in the brain are very enhanced. I have had lifelong, ADD, attention deficit disorder. And I think sometimes maybe that's why I got so intensely involved with meditation when I was young, because it helped soothe the anxiety that comes with that. And it helped focus. And if you have that, the silver lining or the positive side of that is that you can hyper focus and you can meditate for long periods of time once you get into it. Like you can do any activity for long periods of time once you get into it. So the answer is yes.
Okay. How can we, there's another question. I just try to ask people if they can put the questions. It's easier for us if you put it in the Q&R, the Q&A, or Q&A, rather than in the chat, because it will be, well, much easier for us. So there's another question about how can we deal with frustration. This is really something we're all dealing with nowadays.
Yeah, if I was with you and, if we were in person together, or I could see you, I would ask you, where does this question come from? What is your particular frustration? But for frustration in general, since, we don't have that kind of access to each other right now, for frustration in general, I would say, it's the same. It's feeling the feelings, letting yourself have the feeling, taking a deep breath, seeing if you can actually relax into that feeling. It's an unpleasant feeling. Nobody wants to relax into their frustration. I had to do it this morning, looking for a hard drive I couldn't find for the computer. And just was like, I said to my husband, to Jack, I actually have to practice what I teach right now. I am so frustrated. And that's a tiny frustration. The huge frustration of the pandemic, of not being able to see and be with people you love in the ways you love, things you love to do together. I think this is where the loving kindness practice can be really, really helpful, to offer some tenderness and some love to yourself. The Pope gave a talk, I think it was his first TED talk, and he asked, it was a beautiful talk, really, I loved it, where he talked about asking the world for a revolution of tenderness. He said, this is the kind of revolution we need to see in the world, a revolution of tenderness. If we were tender with ourselves and with each other and with our children when they're frustrated, think what a different world we would all be living in right now. So I think to bring some kindness or some tenderness, and there are so many ways that you can learn the loving kindness practice online. I have some brief loving kindness meditations on the Insight LA website, which is, you can put it in the chat, insightla.org. I don't know if I have meditations on my own website, but they're definitely on the Insight LA website, and you can locate them online. Sharon Salzberg is the queen of loving kindness practice and has lots of meditations, and they're probably French teachers who have them too. But to do some loving kindness meditation, I think, is helpful to ease frustration. That teaching was developed almost 2,600 years ago by the Buddha, who discovered that that the loving kindness meditations could really help people work with fear and anger, and frustration is a kind of anger. So I would recommend that. And I don't know, Florence, maybe this is a good moment to do a loving kindness for the body. These days of the pandemic, I've been teaching loving kindness for the body because we want to really boost and support our immune systems. And it's also so frustrating not to have our usual physical outlets. And so it's a kind of appreciation. This is a very simple practice. And I just want to warn you, it is so simple that you're going to think it's ridiculous when we start. That's how I felt when I learned it, which was in the context of a very long meditation retreat. And a monk from Sri Lanka came and he taught us this practice. And when he started out, I thought, what do you think? We're in kindergarten? I mean, it just seemed so ridiculously simple. But there was nothing else to do. And I did it. And I felt good afterwards. So that's my wish, that you will suspend your judgment for 10 minutes and try it with me and just see how you feel. And so this is different from a mindfulness meditation, because what you're going to do is focus on the phrase. I'm going to say some words that I want you to repeat silently to yourself. And just all you really have to do is repeat those words and listen to what you're saying. And then we'll be moving our attention through the different regions of the body as we do that. I think that's all the instruction that you need for this. If I forget something, I'll be guiding you through this the whole way. So I want to invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, or to lower your gaze so you're not, distracted by the screen. And I'm going to do that too. And then to begin by taking a deep breath in and releasing, just relaxing with that out breath. And one more time, breathing in. Just relaxing. And then one more deep breath in. And as you breathe out, releasing any tension there may be completely. So first, bring attention to your head, to the whole region of the head, the scalp, the face, the ears, the jaw. May my head be happy. May my head relax and be at ease. And you'll notice these phrases are different from affirmations. They are aspirations. They are more like prayers. We are opening to actually feeling this way. With each phrase, we plant that seed of intention to relax, to appreciate, to love, to bring some warmth and tenderness to the body. So once again, may my head be happy. May my head relax and be at ease. And then moving attention to the neck, the front, the back, the sides of the neck, the throat. May my neck be happy. And moving the attention now from the neck into the shoulders, where we store a lot of tension. You might want to just lift your shoulders up to the ears and just let them drop. May my shoulders relax and be at ease. And then moving the attention down to from the shoulders to the upper arms, to the elbows, the forearms, the wrists. May my arms be happy. May my arms relax and be happy. And then bringing attention to the hands. May my hands be happy. Feeling the backs of the hands, the palm of the hand, the fingers and thumbs. May my hands relax and be at ease. And now bring attention to the front of the body. Just feeling the whole front of the body with special attention to the chest, the skin, the muscles, the heart, the lungs. May my chest be happy. May my chest be open and at ease. And now moving attention down into the belly, the diaphragm, the belly, the lower abdomen, this whole area of digestive and reproductive organs inside. May my belly, my abdomen relax and be happy. And now moving attention from the front of the body to the back of the body, to the upper back, the shoulder blades. May my upper back relax, be at ease. And then down into the thoracic spine, the mid back, and the lower back. May my whole back be happy. And especially my lower back, another area that holds and supports sometimes a lot of tension. May my lower back relax and be at ease. May my whole spine be happy and well. And if we're moving through a part of the body that is painful or has some injury, and being happy and feeling good isn't really possible, just wishing some ease, some freedom from pain, accepting this limitation with grace. And now bring attention to your bottom, the buttocks where we sit, the seat of consciousness. May my buttocks relax and be happy. and including the genitals. May my genitals be peaceful and content. Now bring attention to the hips. May my hips relax and be at ease, free from judgment. May my hips be happy. And now shift the attention to the thighs, this whole region of the thighs, the femur, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the skin. May my thighs be free from judgment, happy and at ease. And then moving to this complicated joint of the knees. May my knees be happy and strong. And the lower legs, calves, shins, ankles. May my lower legs be happy. And now bringing attention to the feet, appreciating the feet that take us wherever we need to go. Noticing the soles of the feet, the tops of the feet, the toes, the ball of the foot, the arch and heel. May my feet be happy. May my feet relax and be at ease. And now just bringing attention to the whole body. May my whole body relax and be happy. May my whole body sense the appreciation and gratitude I have to be in this body, to be alive, to be well or well enough to be here together. Appreciating the aliveness of the body. The beauty and intelligence of nature. Life in the form of this body. And just bring a sense of your own goodness, your beauty as a human being, the preciousness of this human body. Bringing courage and presence to this embodied life that one by one and all together we share. Ding! That's the bell. You can gently open your eyes.
Well, thank you. Oh, that was wonderful.
I'm enjoying this meditation a lot this whole year of pandemic because, you know, especially at the beginning, we knew so little about the virus and what would keep us safe. And now with the length of time, whoever dreamed it would go on so long, and the frustration that is building in people, in us, just to be able to appreciate the simple fact of aliveness in the body. It's important.
Okay. Thank you. So we have some maybe 10 minutes more to answer questions. So we have some questions in the Q&A. Is there a posture that is more efficient than another to meditate?
You know, sitting up is more efficient than lying down because we're so conditioned to fall asleep when we lie down. A few years ago, I broke my back and I had to meditate lying down. And it was challenging to learn to really be present. If you have a back issue or for some reason, you know, you're sick and you need to lie down, I would make this recommendation. Pretend I'm lying down right now. And when I lie down and meditate, I keep one elbow up, like this is the floor. My hand is the floor. And I rest my elbow on the couch or the mattress, wherever I am, the floor, the mat. And that way, if I start to fall asleep, my arm is going to go, "Whoa," and then I'll know, oh, okay, I fell asleep. So that can be a helpful thing. But usually just sitting up is the best position. And sure, if you are very flexible, you can sit in a full lotus. I cannot. I don't think I ever could actually, and not since I was 5 years old. And if you want to cross your legs, but honestly, you're not going to get more enlightened by crossing your legs on the floor or sitting in a chair. What is important, as that study that they did at Harvard shows, is the quality of presence that you bring to the activity. So I would say whatever posture helps you relax and be present is the best posture for you. And, you know, for me now, since that injury, I don't sit cross-legged on the floor without back support. I need that back support. I need a little support under my knees. I'm 75 years old. You know, it's just part of life that we get more achy joints. So it's like I said, what's most important is the quality of presence that you bring. And the more interested you are in yourself and what you're doing, the more present you will be. And I know we're all been in solitude a lot and you may be getting kind of bored with who we are at this point. But honestly, just get as interested as you can. And that will also express itself in your posture. Like I can tell when I'm leading, you know, in-person meditation retreats, I can see by somebody's posture how awake, how present they are. You know, we have sonar for each other. We can see these things, whether we know it or not.
Okay. I have the question of Yolande, who is saying, how can I help have this? How can I help my son? He's 13 years old. He's nonverbal. He's disabled. How can I help him do this meditation practice? Do you have any
Well,
recommendations?
if he's 13 and he's you know, if he's nonverbal, to me that means he also has cognitive limitations, maybe some developmental delay in that department. And if that's the case, what you would do with him is through little games, not trying to make him sit still and close his eyes and pay attention. And children don't want to do that. and it's not even right for them to do that. So I would recommend, I don't know if it's been translated into French, but my friend Susan Kaiser Greenland wrote a book called The Mindful Child, which is wonderful. And then she wrote another book called Mindful Games. And I actually used a lot of her games when I went to teach mindfulness in a Darfuri refugee camp near Sudan in eastern Chad, because we were asked to come and train, develop a preschool program for the refugee camps. And so I used a lot of those games to work with the young teachers, and that they would then, teach their young students. So I would recommend anything playful that might engage your son, because remember, you're not trying to make his mind all quiet. You're trying to help him be present with what he's doing as much as he can, and help him enjoy life, because that's our birthright as human beings. That's why we do this practices, is to be able to fully enjoy and appreciate this life we've been given. And he's been given a tough life. So these games, any little playful games that you can find to do with him, that's the best way to help him be more mindful, because he will naturally be interested.
Yeah, thank you. Another question about frustration and exhaustiveness. I don't know if you say that like that.
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion,
Yeah.
psyche exhaustions. I'm alone. It's Françoise saying I've been alone for many years. I've worked on my awareness path. I've changed a lot, and now I'm still very, very lonely, and silence is my life. I do some sports, but I can't do it anymore, and I don't want to stay on this earth. I'm so what do you say? I can't do any links with people, and yeah.
Okay. So really, you're questioning the purpose of your existence right now, Françoise. And that, that's a very profound question that you have. And I'm really glad you asked it. And when you are isolated, and I understand that being alone is something you know how to do, you've done it a lot in your life, but being alone, deprived of the connections that you treasure, and being deprived of the physical outlets, sports, whatever you loved that your body enjoyed, is super hard. It's really hard. So the best way, I think, when you're in it's like a kind of despair, maybe just a moment, but there it is. It's true. It's real in that moment. The best thing to do is, if there's any way you can do something kind for somebody else. If you could, I don't know if you know how, I have a stereotype of French women that they all know how to dress beautifully and cook delicious food. I don't know if you can cook, but if you know how to cook, then you might just cook something for a neighbor and surprise them. You could make it a game and not even tell them who it's from. Just whatever. I'm just giving a silly example, but there is a need during the pandemic. We need volunteers at vaccination sites. And it's a good way to, that's how my daughter, she did not qualify for a vaccination because she was only 53, but she volunteered at a vaccination site twice a week, drove 2 hours to get to it. Anyway, I know I'm not supposed to drive more than, I think, 10 kilometers away, but whatever. If you can find something that you can do that takes you out of yourself, I don't say this because I think that you're, unkind or selfish. Not at all. I say this because it's just a proven method of lifting the psyche that is exhausted and fed up and just doesn't see any hope, or what we say, light at the end of the tunnel. You probably have a French expression like that. Is to just, even I know in the 12-step meetings like Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, and these meetings, you start out when you first go, the thing you learn. And I went to Al Anon for many years, actually, because my husband was the responsable. When you start out by learning that you help put out the chairs, and maybe you help make the coffee, or you start out with very simple forms of service, because that wisdom knows, the wisdom of experience, practical wisdom knows that helps people feel better about themselves. So it's a very traditional answer, but that's my answer. And it's an expression. The way that I fit it into these practices, it's an expression of compassion and kindness. It's one of the beautiful places that the heart can dwell. We call them Brahma Viharas. Brahma meaning divine, or heavenly, and Vihar means dwelling place. Like, we can actually train our hearts. This, you've been practicing. We can train our hearts to be able to dwell, spend more and more time in these lovely places, instead of all the worries and anxieties and depression and so forth. So this, and instead of asking you to just sit there and practice loving kindness, I'm suggesting you find some simple ways. Maybe walk a neighbor's dog. I mean, I don't know, but you'll know. And I really wish you some relief and happiness.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, recover your joy.
Just a question. What is Al-Anon? How do you say?
Al-Anon. We have Alcoholics Anonymous.
Uh-huh.
And then we have, it's called AL-ANON. And I know you have it in France, because I have participated in France in the past when I was visiting my parents who lived in France for 40 years. I don't know what is Al-Anon, AL-ANON. You can look it up. And what it is an organization that supports the friends and relatives of the addicted people who are there. They have programs to recover and learn to establish sobriety from their addiction. And then, but the family members and the friends also need support, so that, because they get caught up in the systems of denial, and they get caught up in it. It's inevitable. We just do, because we're living together and we love each other and we care, and we get caught up. So that program helps you establish some compassion instead of just being lost in your anger and frustration. It also helps you come back to yourself and stop focusing on the other person so much and their bad behaviors. You learn to really keep the focus on yourself, and learn to work with your own reactivity and strengthen your own heart and life.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think it's already 9:20.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's been so nice to do this together. Really.
Yeah, I enjoyed it so much. And I think in the chat, people enjoyed so much your meditation. I just want to remind them that we are really this very special offer with all the talks and meditations and teaching of the last December summit on meditation and mindfulness that we had at Quantum last December. And there are many, many different meditations. There are your meditation, Trudy, Jack's meditation. One that made me cry was meditation for the whole world, and I cried on screen. Yeah, and there's a Christine Neff who has a compassionate meditation. So there are many, many, Martin Aylward, and so many really great meditation teachers, and very inspiring. So you can really, really enjoy that for only, I know, it's not a lot, 50 euros. And remind you also that in April we have our Trauma, Attachment and Resilience Summit with Dick Schwartz, but also with Stephen Porges, Deb Dana, Bob Schwartz, and I don't know, David Treleaven, many really great trauma, Janina Fisher, and really great trauma specialists and experts. Okay, so maybe we can take a last question, and it's related to trauma, so it's kind of an introduction to our next summit. It's Françoise who is saying, I've done a lot of work to work on my traumas, and I still have the belief that I still have this trauma. How can I do? Do you have something for
Okay, I'm
Françoise?
so sorry. I got distracted. I was reading things in the chat. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. You can still read the chat, but I
No,
will
I
say it
was
again.
reading the
So,
chat.
France.
Sorry.
That's great. I understand. That's why I try to get out of it, because if I read the chat, I can be with you.
I know.
This is so desperate, and we want to chat, and we want to be with
I
people.
know. I
And
want
I
to see
know,
what people are
and I saw
saying.
people I know. And I'm so glad to see the people who are really very often there. And
So could you repeat the question,
Françoise is
Florence?
saying, I've worked a lot on my traumas, and I still have the belief that the trauma is still here. What can I do? So Jack is saying, stop thinking about it, but I don't think it's, if you say stop thinking, you will still think about it. No.
Yeah, it doesn't work. I mean, it would be great if it worked, but it doesn't really work to say stop thinking. Here's what I would say, Françoise. I think, when we have a significant trauma in our lives, that trauma, we can't go back and erase the past, right? And so it's there. What changes is our relationship to it. And I bet if you and I talked and I asked you, are you the same with your trauma today as you were a few years ago? You would have to admit that it has changed, the relationship that you have with your trauma. And also, I don't know if you have done any sort of somatic therapies, because talking therapy is not so effective with trauma. I know for my trauma, I have had to do EMDR and I did it with tapping. You can't see me. I was tapping my legs, but you can tap. The bilateral stimulation of the body is calming for the nervous system. So you can just tap your thighs. And as you meditate, tapping like that, you'll feel it. There's a subtle relaxation that comes when you do that. And I would recommend that you do a therapy like EMDR if you're not already, because the body keeps the score. There's a wonderful book by Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps the Score. And he really talks about all of this. And I shared with you that I had the privilege of I know Bessel and had the privilege of working with him on my trauma. And I can now remember that event in all its gory details without the emotions. It's just a memory. It doesn't carry the charge that can reactivate my whole nervous system anymore. So this is possible for you too. And I wish you luck.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you. And Bessel will also be in our next summit. Not in person, but it's a recorded conversation with him. So
I recommend his book very highly.
His book, it's been translated in French too. So
okay. What's it called in French? I'm just curious.
Le corps n'oublie rien. The body never forgets anything.
Yeah. So could we close with a very sweet practice that I would like to offer to everybody?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And somebody's asking in the chat for Bessel's book. Yeah, I just like to, I know we're going a little over time and I know it's late where you are, but this will just take a few minutes and it's the way I would like to leave you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So once again, just closing your eyes, because this is an imagination. This is a visualization, which is a whole different kind of, it's more like a contemplation than a meditation. And so closing your eyes, I want you to think of anybody in your life. It can be anybody who's actually in your life, or anybody who passed away and was in your life, but now they're gone. It could be your pet, your children, but anybody in your life who is happy when you're happy. In other words, when you have a smile, they're glad to see that. And if something good happens to you, they're just glad for you. And just arrange them, imagine them in a semicircle in front of you, around you, and just put them there. It doesn't have to be a perfect relationship, or you won't have anybody in your circle. I always put my parents, even though they've been dead for a long time, but you know, relationships are complicated, but basically they were happy when I was happy, and I miss that. And then imagine each of these people looking at you with eyes of tenderness, warmth, friendliness, love. And one by one, look into their eyes and receive that warmth, affection, their fondness for you. And just notice what it's like to take that in. To receive this energy of shared appreciation for you. And then one by one, just because we're at the end of our time, I mean, you could hang out for a while with them and bring in lots more. But for today, just for today, we'll end here. And one by one, if it's appropriate, you can give them a hug. There's no virus in our imagination. Or whatever is appropriate, a little bow, and just one by one, let them dissolve and melt into your heart. It's easier to do with a hug, where you can just let them kind of dissolve into your heart. Each one of them is part of you. And you can draw on their support in moments of loneliness or despair. And then whenever you're ready, ding, opening your eyes.
Ooh.
I know when I
you,
do
made
it,
me
it makes me
cry.
cry. Yeah, I know. And
Oh.
maybe really, I'm sorry, Florence, but I'm
No,
not really
that's
sorry.
okay.
I like to take more time with this one. So I want to encourage
Yeah.
all of you to just take your time with it and do it on your own. This is a loving kindness meditation. It's not the classic one that you'll find taught, but it's one that I love. I do it, and it really is helpful. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It's
Thank
been a
you so
great
much. Hope to see you
joy to be
again.
with you.
Maybe in real
I hope
in real
so.
life. But thank you so much
Okay.
for being with us, and have a nice day, and see you
Have a
soon, I
nice
hope.
evening.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye. Merci beaucoup, Anne-Laure. Thank you so much, Anne-Laure, for your translation. I'm sure it was just wonderful. Merci bien et je te libère. Bonne soirée et à très très bientôt.